In today's dynamic, fast-paced world of creative services, the need to have a 1,000-yard view requires a diverse team. Today, we're joined by Alyssa of Nomad Cre8tive Agency, who's setting out to give the world exactly that. I'm your host, Olivier Bousset, and in this episode, we explore how she's building and empowering a diverse group of nomadic creatives to find unique solutions for our clients. We talk about her business journey as a CEO, a founder, and an entrepreneur, and we explore so much more. Hi, Alyssa. Welcome to Business 101.
Hey, Olivier, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. So let's just jump right in. Give us your 60-second introduction about yourself and your business.
Yeah, so, as we mentioned, my name is Alyssa Zwonok. I'm the founder and CEO of Nomad Cre8tive. And Nomad Cre8tive is a full service remote creative agency. And our mission is to bridge the gap between traditional agencies and freelancers. So we build teams of specialized remote creators and operate as an agency to businesses locally and globally. So, high level, our team is built of amazing freelancers from all over Canada, and they work on a per project basis, giving them the agency to accept or decline any opportunities we send their way. I truly believe that inspirational works comes from inspired people. So, I give my team the option to choose which projects they want to work on instead of assigning them whatever next project is in the pipeline.
That's really interesting.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I always like to ask everybody is like, what was the spark, that sort of aha moment that really launched this whole business?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I actually studied in school for graphic design for 6 years, and in one of my years in university, I studied abroad in Bordeaux, France. So while I was there, I traveled Europe like it was nobody's business. I absolutely loved it. Came back home, had one more year of school, and I was kind of burnt out from design and the creative industry. I had been in school, I was freelancing, and then I also worked part time at other agencies and companies as a designer over the years. So I kind of came back feeling like I wanted to do something different. And as I'm applying for design jobs, I saw this thing for Air Canada like pop up. So I applied, and next thing in the morning, I get a call, and they ended up offering me the job. So funny enough, I worked as a flight attendant for 4 years. And in those 4 years, I was always kind of freelancing and, working on projects here and there, connecting with other creatives to help execute certain things. And that's where that outsourcing model came into play. But obviously, after being away from the industry for so long, I felt like I had these two passions of traveling and design and creation, and I wanted to bring them together. So knowing that flight attending wasn't necessarily my calling, it was really just kind of a segue into being able to travel the world and experience new things. So when I left that job, that's when I founded Nomad Cre8tive. So it was really a solution to combine both of my passions, like I said, for design and travel.
That's super interesting, and sort of like a digital nomad when you started your career. And did you get to experience a business in France? Did that have an influence on you when you launched your career here? Because they have a very different business model and sort of
Yeah, for
work.
sure. It's actually interesting. No one's ever asked me that before, but come to think of it, the French and European culture in terms of work is way more laid back. I remember, I had gone there for school and not for work at the time. This was years ago. And so I remember, class started at 9 a.m. and I was there at 9 o'clock sharp, and everyone started rolling it at like 10:30, including the teachers. And I just didn't understand. And it's just this very kind of laid back, relaxed concept. They believe, similarly to how I feel now about work and business, that you can't force things. You do things when you feel like you're ready. And, at the end of the day, there are meetings and things that you need to attend to. I kind of got inspired by this idea of not, you know, making work your life, but doing it the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah, you work to live, not live to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I asked, because I've noticed that my friends who worked and are working in Europe versus my friends who are in the US or in Canada, there's a work ethic that's very different.
Oh, yeah.
So looking back now at your starting point where you were and when you launched your business,
Mhm.
did you have a major pivot, or did it literally just keep going smoothly for you? Or did you say, you know what, I got to change course at one point?
Yeah, I mean, At the end of the day, I feel like every strong business and brand is always pivoting. Things just change so quickly in the digital marketing space that you have to keep up yourself, right? We're players in the game as much as all the other businesses that are our clients. So we actually rebranded this year, given the new clientele we've been attracting and since expanding to a full service agency. Over the years, our clients have gotten bigger and we just didn't see ourselves as a small boutique agency anymore. And to kind of like go back, we started off mainly as a branding and design agency, and now we also offer marketing and social media services and everything in between, really. And internally, how we operate and build our teams has also naturally evolved. But at the core, Nomad Cre8tive, I would say, is still built of a team of freelancers, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon, but who knows?
Yeah, that's interesting. I was checked out your website and I loved the branding you guys did.
Thank you.
David's Tea, all
Mhm.
these ones. I was like, that looks amazing. So you guys do an amazing job.
Yeah, David's Tea is one of our favorite clients. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you ever experience a major roadblock, or I assume you did, but something that really stood out that says this had an impact on how you're going to move forward in the future, but as well as how you moved over it?
Well, honestly, we're still a pretty young agency, so we're always learning and adapting as we go. But Nomad Cre8tive was founded in 2018, and we started off with maybe 2 to 5 freelance. I was doing a lot of the work actually because of my background in graphic design, and I had a lot of trouble trusting other people to deliver at the level I was expecting. Set really high standards for myself and then in turn for people that worked for me. So letting go and trusting others was definitely a big thing for me. And as much as I'm still working on that through different phases and different levels of the business, I can proudly say that I've onboarded over 50 freelancers since then. And though I would say that the most challenging thing is to hire the right person, right? Because in the creative industry, the portfolio and CV can only tell you so much. And you really only get to know them and how they work once you get started. So there's definitely been some setbacks, of course, naturally, and times where I was frustrated, where my hiring decisions maybe weren't the greatest. However, it's all part of the process and the journey, and I believe that eventually the right people will come along and hopefully stay for the long haul.
Yeah, that is actually a great lead into my next question, because something that I've noticed in a lot of the businesses that I've helped mentor and I've also worked it with on the side, hiring is one of the most complicated and emotional things to do, certainly in smaller teams.
Mhm.
And so I'll ask you, my question is, if you can go back at the beginning in 2018 and say, what is one thing you should have, or one position you should have hired somebody for right away, as opposed to you keep doing it?
Mhm.
And my example has always been finances. I always think you should hire somebody who's a financial expert, but most people try to do it themselves.
Yeah, finance is definitely a thing. But, like I said, having a background in graphic design and also experience running departments at digital marketing agencies, it's really hard for me to step back as creative director because I was in that role for a long time and just taking that role of CEO, kind of like stepping back from all that executional work. I really like to stay involved as much as I can, but I also recognize that doing everything isn't sustainable. And that's where hiring specialists has been great. So I would say it's less about a specific person or like for a specific job, but more so about a team of people you can trust to get it all done right and well from A to Z.
Yeah, right at the beginning. I think that's the biggest mistake I find is when people hold off so long and then they bring somebody in and that person has to try to figure out what they were doing. Yeah,
Mhm,
and that becomes a disaster. But great.
mhm.
So now you mentioned as CEO, and this is a question I've added recently. So you're lucky, you're one of the first people to get it. What is the worst part of your job? Something I don't ask people because I always think like, it's all great, but it's not. There's
You mean
bad parts.
CEO, right? As
Yes.
CEO? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I mean, I don't like to focus too much on the negative. I try and stay as optimistic as I can, and I think like with every job, it does come with frustrations and times where you lose patience, but ultimately, I believe that it's the greatest job in the world. It's empowering, it's exciting, it's motivating, it's limitless, and it really gives you the opportunity to build a life with a lot of freedom. So I can't complain.
So no negative side. I love it.
Well, there's
Okay.
always those little things here and there, but in general, I love it. It may not be for everybody, but for me, I feel it feels right, you know?
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand. One thing I always ask people is, how did you get your first customers? Because a lot of people, that's the biggest struggle, right? It's like your first customer, it's the biggest hurdle. And how did you guys go about doing that?
Well, I actually, because I started freelancing back in 2011, I already had a base of freelance clients. So making the transition into Nomad Creative was not as difficult as just starting a business from scratch because I already had a reputation myself as a freelancer. So like realistically, I guess my first freelance client ever was I think my sister's husband at the time who hired me to help with like the family business, and so I would go in and just do some work for him, like digital ads and whatnot. And then with Nomad Cre8tive, I honestly can't remember who like the first official client is that we signed on because it was such a seamless transition. It was kind of just like, okay, January 1st came along and now I'm Nomad Cre8tive, right? And so it was like me, myself, and I for like the first month until I started to hire more people. But yeah, that's my answer.
No, it makes sense, and that's something you have since 2011 a
Yeah.
huge history of customers and experiences
Mhm.
and references that you can pull in on your business. So it's a seamless transition for you for sure, and that's a brilliant way to go about it. What has been your best go-to marketing tool or social media or whatever that has been the most successful for you guys to expand your users, your customers, your community?
Well, honestly, it kind of goes back to what you were just saying about building that reputation. I would say word of mouth. Like, forget the social platforms, forget the email marketing, forget all of that. People trust other people's opinions, and we've been lucky to have built an amazing reputation. I know that we have over 25 five-star Google reviews and over 30 five-star Facebook reviews. So, people are talking, people like what we're doing. We pay very good attention to our clients and the service that we provide. So, I think that just having that reputation and relying on word of mouth of other people has been our biggest tool.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
So if you were to tell somebody who's just starting off their own agency or their own business, what is something that you would say, guys, you should focus on this? Because if you don't have that customer, if you don't have the relationships that go back, word of mouth is difficult because you have to sort of create a little bit of momentum. So
Mhm.
what would you give people to, guys, go this direction, start your Twitter account or start this conversation?
Right. So I think it all comes down to brand awareness. And depending on the business, you might want to be on different platforms and build the awareness on different platforms. At the end of the day, the more presence you have, the better, just because you're able to reach more people. But understanding that for smaller business, it might not be something that they can sustain or have the tools or the manpower to handle, essentially. So I would say, maybe hire a team to help evaluate which platform makes the most sense for you, and then focus on that, and then focus on building brand awareness. So it's less about, like throwing out ads or anything, but really building a brand that people can recognize. So that's through, your graphics, how you speak, and really build that community. It'll help kind of define you in a way and create a place where people can that they trust, right? Like where they can find you in a place that they can trust you.
That's really interesting. I believe you had done a post on LinkedIn about your logo is not your brand, if
Hmm.
I'm correct. Are you doing that as a course to help people, or is it just something you're posting out there and saying, hey, guys, this is my 2 cents about this?
Yeah, so I actually hosted a webinar through the Small Business Center in Belleville, Ontario. So they are partnered also with Trendball, and I just, offered my advice to help the local community and the businesses around here. If you're not familiar with the area, it's pretty close to Prince Edward County. I think more people know where that is. And it's really just a growing and developing area. There are a lot of businesses here that have been around for a long time, and an incredible amount of new businesses kind of coming in, right? And so our goal in this area is to really help those businesses that have been around for a long time but that have maybe struggled in digitizing their brands and are maybe falling behind with the trends in terms of like their visual identity and stuff like that. So the webinar that I put together was really about, talking about branding and rebranding. When is a good time to rebrand? It's on YouTube, so if anyone wants to look it up, it's called More Than Just a Logo, and you can type my name in, Alyssa Zwonok, and it should pop up there. But yeah. just a free tool I put out there. I felt it would be helpful for some people.
That's really interesting. I will add that to the show description for sure.
Cool.
Um, have you any plans to build sort of courses to help people out, or to monetize this in some way to say I can actually teach people how to do this as opposed to just do it?
Honestly, it's extremely time consuming. I'm not sure I have the bandwidth to do that right now. It's not necessarily my focus, but I am happy to, guest speak at events and things like that. But for now, not a focus, but who knows for the future, right?
Excellent. Well, that's always interesting. So, what's one thing in your industry that excites you? What's one trend that you feel is going to be really big? Like everybody's talking about Web 3.0. Is it something that you guys are starting to focus?
I would say less a trend and more so a platform, TikTok. It's a little scary. It's the first time I think I feel a generational gap, but that's also why I have an awesome team to help with that platform, make it a little bit more accessible and digestible. I personally don't have too much knowledge about it, but I know that the team is super excited about it. So this is, a trend in terms of like a platform and where you should be and how you should communicate. Video in general is just king. It's something that every brand should be focusing on and implementing in whichever way makes sense for their business, of course. But yeah, that's what I would say. TikTok for sure.
Yeah, TikTok's really interesting. It's a bit of a weird dynamic because a lot of people sort of feel very hesitant to jump on it because they feel very exposed, as
Yeah.
opposed to writing content where they feel they have some sort of buffer.
Mhm.
So it's I get that a lot, but I honestly believe it's something. I love TikTok. I waste too much time on it. I don't post. I just watch. So I'm like, I spend too much
Down
time
the
on it.
rabbit hole, yeah.
Yeah, it is completely. So what is one trend that you're not excited about, you're kind of nervous about in your industry? What's something that you feel like could happen if, economic environment changes?
I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I think that if you're thinking about like social media and where a lot of brands live, I feel like most, if not, I would say, let's say a lot of businesses put a lot of their eggs in the social media basket. Let's just say that. And you never know when or if social media will disappear. So I think the fear is more so, if let's say we're proposing for a client to really focus on social, but then they're hesitant on building out, let's say, an email marketing plan or a separate sales strategy, outreach, things like that. Not the greatest idea because social could disappear at any moment and any time. So I think diversifying where you market is super important. So I guess the fear of social media disappearing, it's possible. And a lot of people are kind of relying on it for income and for business. So I don't have a fear necessarily for my business, but more so for the clients that like don't recognize that or see that as much as we try and communicate that. Just a message for everyone out there starting a business. Make sure to diversify your marketing efforts.
But that's a great point. That's something that people don't talk about. They
Mm-hmm.
often just sort of focus on one part.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting. All right. Now we're going to go from your core business to you, the entrepreneur. I have some questions, and I think this is a lot of fun to ask and get to know you better.
Yeah.
So one is one thing that makes you super productive.
I think it all starts with a morning routine. You have to focus on yourself. You have to get yourself in line before you can be productive in doing anything else. It's something that I've definitely adapted and grown to love and apply over the last like 2 years specifically, I would say. Running your own business can be very overwhelming. It can be challenging. You can let it take over your life, but I don't believe that that's healthy. I don't think that being busy should be normalized. I think having your downtime is more productive than being busy all the time, truthfully. Like we need that downtime to re-energize, get inspired, and be able to actually, produce or create or work in the day. And so I guess a habit of mine, like I said, morning routine, I wake up early. I go downstairs to my basement where I have my gym. I'll do probably 45 minutes of exercise. Then I'll do some stretching. I'll do some meditation. Then I have my coffee, have my breakfast, and then I'll start working. So I've at that point dedicated 3 hours to myself before everyone else wakes up, so that I'm not bothered. I don't have to worry about emails coming through at the end of the day for people who are staying late and things like that. And I really just have that time for myself to stay grounded and essentially regroup every single day.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's a great way to start your day. A lot of people mention that either meditation or early morning yoga, and really sort of just let themselves get empty before they start filling up on the day's work.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So this sort of leads me to the next question that I've only been recently asking: well-being. This is something that it's been brought up a few times, and people talk about. What is something that you do for yourself and your team to keep, emotional, physical well-being, just all around keep people? Because I know today it's very stressful and work environment normally stressful, and but adding on a pandemic and everything else, it's just compounding this. So, is there something you guys do specifically?
Yeah. So, I mean, because we're not a traditional agency and we don't have people working for us full time all the time, it's very much like I have separate relationships with all the freelancers. Sometimes we work as teams, sometimes we work one on one. So, I have a personal relationship and connection with each of them. And I'm also very, very understanding and flexible. They know that they can reach out to me and tell me anything. So, if something happened to them or their families or they just need a break, I'm super accommodating. And, like I said, we don't really assign projects to people. They have the option to say yes or no. So, sometimes I have a freelancer that comes to me with a family emergency and they say, like, I'm going to be offline for the next 2 months, or, that they're burnt out or that they're traveling. And like, I fully encourage people to take that time for themselves. So that's kind of how I support my team on that level.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And it's really important today. And certainly for dynamic and remote workforces, if they don't feel a connection with you, they can easily just sort of find themselves drifting off. So that's an interesting point.
Mhm.
So in your typical business day, what is something that you burn up a lot of time on that you probably shouldn't, or you wish you could get rid of?
This is probably going to be an unpopular answer, but nothing. I love that every day is different and presents its own challenges. It's really hard to pick. If anything, I would say maybe kind of like what we spoke about before about like finances and taxes and stuff. But then again, like it could be fun to see your growth and your earnings and all of that. So I really just try and find like this might be annoying to some people, but I just try and find like the good in everything and just, make every day the best that it can. Life is short and we really do have to live one day at a time. So, just count your blessings.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's so true. So true.
Yeah.
I was thinking you're going to say TikTok, but
No, not at all, actually.
all right. What is the one thing you recently spent money on that you think is just the best for your business that you feel everybody should invest in? Is there anything that, a big purchase or a product or a device or a service?
For my business. So I actually recently started a new outreach technique, and this would be actually super helpful for other freelancers or other business owners, and for their sales department if they're interested in looking into it. The app is called Loom. Loom, and they essentially allow you to like record your screen with a little video in the corner. If you have the paid version, you could have a call to action there where people can, book a call with you in your calendar or visit your website, whatever you want the action to be. And it's just a really personal way to communicate and connect with clients and potential clients and even your team as well. So like let's say you have to review a document, instead of like typing something out and making them read it, first off, it's easier for you to just record and talk it through, right? You're probably going to communicate more clearly. And second, it's a nicer experience for your team to be able to kind of watch that video over instead of having to read a super long email with all these points. So it's just a different way to work. I use it with my team and with clients and potential clients as well, like I said. So for like pitches and things like that. It's really
That's great. That's
Mhm.
great. We've used it, and also Tela TV
Oh,
is another one for the Chrome extension.
okay. I never.
So if you have use Chrome, yeah. So it's a brilliant. A lot of people have brought it up to my attention, and I think it's a great way to onboard new customers and employees as well.
Oh, great.
So that's
Well, I'll look
great.
into it.
Yeah. So that the next question I have, and this is one that everybody loves. I don't know why, but it's something that I kind of like put it in, but now I've made it a standard question. What is one book that has helped your business and your career move forward? Something that you would say everybody should read if you want to do this.
hmm So I'm sure you've gathered, I'm very into, personal development and well-being and all that stuff. And so a lot of that kind of came down to the times when I was flying as a flight attendant because I had so much downtime and I started to read like a book a week, really. You just have, all this time in the air. So one of the books that I read that was super inspiring, it's less so about business. I did read some business books. I just feel like they're a little bit more like on the technical side. But this one, it's called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Caro, I believe you pronounce her name. Again, it's more about personal development, but I think that you need that in order to run a business, right? Like you need to keep yourself in check and focus on yourself first before you can be there for your team and for your client. And it really just talks about overcoming limited beliefs and fears and, setting goals and taking risks. It's just a very easy read and super motivating. I think I read it and I also listened to it. It's a great book.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I hadn't heard of her or this book.
Mhm.
Cool. Excellent. My next question is one I like is if you could meet any famous entrepreneur and go out for a coffee and pick their brain for an hour, who would it be and why?
Ryan Serhant. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay, he's a real estate agent on a reality show called Million Dollar Listing New York. So he started his career, as a regular real estate agent and got casted on this show and has since then grown into this giant mogul in the industry, selling like millions and millions of dollars every year. And during the pandemic, he actually took that opportunity to branch off on his own because these agents are all part of agencies, right? So the agencies take cuts and whatnot. And when you're making millions of dollars, it's a big cut. So he actually started his own like digital marketing agency to support his clients and the marketing efforts that go behind the listings that he puts up. And I just thought he was genius. I've listened to his podcast. I've followed his journey. He's this like marketing guru. Honestly, he's really great to follow. If you don't know about him, follow him. And if you're into real estate too, I mean, it's a bonus because he shares these ridiculous properties in New York, like 13, 20, $30 million penthouses in the city.
Right.
So yeah, and I think he's expanding to different cities as well, but definitely someone I would love to learn from because, as a real estate, you're kind of an entrepreneur as well, right? You have your clients, you're building this base, it's all word of mouth. And then he's also doing all the marketing for the property. So he's very creative and conceptual in his ideas. So I feel like as much as he's in like a completely different industry, it would be super beneficial to sit and chat with him. Okay, I hope you hear this, Ryan, one day.
Yeah. Well, me too, because I hope it goes that far. But that's actually new. Most people always pick like a Warren Buffett or somebody else, and you're always like, okay, yeah, yeah, it's standard. But that's really good. I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right. Well, that was amazing. So my final question I ask everybody is, how can people reach out to you and connect and get to ask you questions or follow you?
Yeah, so we're on all of the social media platforms. You can find us at Nomad Cre8tive. Cre8tive is spelled Cre8tive. I'm sure, Olivia, you'll have that all linked down below. But yeah, you can check out our website as well, nomadcreative.com. And that's pretty much it. Feel free to message me whenever you want.
Excellent. And people can reach you out on LinkedIn. You respond well there. So
of course, yes, I'm on LinkedIn as well, Alyssa Zwonok. And we have a page for Nomad Cre8tive as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I want to thank you so much. It was wonderful getting to talk to you and get to know you and your business.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share. I hope that some people get inspired or learn a little bit from my story, but I'm very glad to be here. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We hope these podcasts give you insights on experiences these founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs and business owners have had with their own journeys. We hope that you find some useful takeaways to help you on your own business journey. Like always, please follow and give us a review. Thank you.